Picture this. On one side of town, somebody is setting up a ring light inside, like a luxury SUV that they can barely afford the monthly payments on.
Right, we've all seen that.
Exactly. And they're parked outside an apartment where they are currently 2 months behind on rent, frantically filming a video to show off this lifestyle that is entirely funded by high-interest debt.
Yeah, the classic social media flex.
But now, on the exact opposite side of town, there's another person, completely unphotographed, no ring light, no catchy caption. They're sitting on their beat-up couch in sweatpants, and they just quietly auto-transferred $400 USD into an index fund.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and they closed the app, and they didn't tell a single soul.
It's a striking contrast, isn't it? I mean, you have two completely different realities living side by side, operating on entirely different operating systems of what, success actually means.
Exactly. And that second person, they are part of what is arguably the fastest-growing, least photographed financial movement of 2026.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
Today's deep dive is all about the rise of quiet saving and this new era of stealth wealth. And I want to be clear right up front for you listening, we aren't talking about extreme frugality here.
Right, not the whole rice and beans thing.
No, definitely not. This isn't about eating rice and beans for a decade just so you can, take a screenshot of your bank account later. It's about understanding the underlying mechanics of why keeping your financial wins private might actually be the ultimate cheat code for building lasting freedom.
It really is a fundamental shift. We're looking at a complete rewiring of how we relate to our money, our peers, and honestly, our own psychology.
Yeah, totally.
But before we get into the mechanics of how this works and how you can apply it, I need to state very clearly, disclaimer, this is not investment advice. Always do your own research and consult qualified financial advisors before investing.
Okay, let's unpack this. For the last few years, the internet has been incredibly loud about money.
Oh, very loud.
Right. We had the whole loud budgeting trend where everyone was posting their debt payoff journeys, their exact salaries, their daily spending down to the cent. So why is the pendulum suddenly swinging so hard in the opposite direction? Why are people choosing this invisible accumulation of wealth?
Well, looking across the research we've gathered for you today, from viral 2026 market trends to foundational texts like Morgan Housel's The Psychology of Money, a very clear picture emerges.
What kind of picture?
We are seeing profound economic and social fatigue. People are just simply exhausted from the performance of wealth.
Yeah, that makes sense. The performance has to be draining.
It really is.
Yeah.
But to actually understand the mechanics of why quiet saving works, we have to look at Housel's core distinction between being rich and being wealthy.
So how does he define the difference? Because, society tends to use those two words interchangeably.
Right, and that is exactly the trap. Rich is current, visible income. It's the $100,000 USD car in the driveway. But mechanically, when you see someone driving that car, the only hard data point you actually know about their finances is that they have $100,000 less than they did before they bought it.
Wow.
Or, more likely, they have $100,000 more in debt.
That's a great point.
Wealth, on the other hand, is hidden. Wealth is the income that is not spent. It's the retirement accounts, the paid-off mortgage, the financial assets that you haven't converted into tangible stuff.
It makes me think of a smartphone.
A smartphone.
Yeah, because society judges you based on the shiny designer case you put on it or how new the model looks. We totally obsess over the exterior.
Right, the aesthetics.
Exactly. But true wealth is the battery life. You can't see battery life from the outside, but it is the only thing that actually keeps the device running when you're stranded and need to make a call.
That is a phenomenal way to visualize it. I love that. The shiny case is the ego, and the battery life is the security.
Yeah, the invisible power.
Exactly. And Housel emphasizes something deeply psychological here.
Yeah.
Savings is simply the gap between your ego and your income.
Wait, say that again. The gap between your ego and your income.
Yes. The mechanism of wealth building relies heavily on your ability to put a lid on your ego. If you can stop caring so much about what other people think of you, that gap widens and your wealth grows. Less ego mathematically equals more wealth.
But, I want to push back on this a little.
Sure, go ahead.
Because ignoring what other people think is incredibly difficult. We are biologically wired to care about our status in the tribe, right?
Oh, 100%.
It is psychologically excruciating to drive a 10-year-old Toyota when your peers are suddenly pulling up in brand new BMWs. How do the people who actually have money deal with that friction?
That is the billion-dollar question right there.
Yeah.
And it's exactly what Thomas J. Stanley researched in his book, The Millionaire Next Door.
Oh, I've heard of that one.
It's a classic for a reason. When you look at the data, and this is backed up by recent surveys from Kiplinger as well, the reality of stealth wealth completely shatters the stereotype.
How so?
The average millionaire does not look the part at all. They live in middle-class neighborhoods, they shop for bargains, and they actively reject that dopamine hit of social validation in favor of the delayed gratification of security.
So they aren't like upgrading their lives every time they get a promotion.
Exactly. The core mechanism keeping them wealthy is that their net worth grows faster than their spending. They avoid the trap of the hedonic treadmill.
The hedonic treadmill, where you just keep running, but you stay in the same place financially.
Right. When most people get a raise, their brain says, I have more money, I should feel better. So they immediately inflate their lifestyle. They get a nicer apartment or a luxury car lease.
Yeah, the classic lifestyle creep.
Exactly. But the stealth wealth practitioner intercepts that dopamine hit. They keep their lifestyle flat and direct that extra income into investments. A huge hallmark of this group is driving a reliable secondhand car long after the loan is paid off.
Okay, I see how that builds a massive safety net, but let's look at the dark side of this for a second.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Isn't there a potential danger to extreme financial secrecy? When we hear about the ultra-wealthy, like the billionaires, we hear about offshore tax havens and shell companies used to hide money.
Right, the Panama Papers type stuff.
Yeah. So is this stealth wealth trend just an everyday micro version of that exact same hoarding mentality?
That is a highly relevant tension, and our sources do actually address it, specifically in a review of Brooke Harrington's book, Offshore.
Okay, so what did she find?
At the ultra-elite level, extreme financial secrecy is essentially colonialism 2.0.
Colonialism 2.0.
Yeah, it's an extractive system where billionaires use complex jurisdictional arbitrage to maximize secrecy, avoid taxes, and exploit systems at the expense of everyone else.
Hold on, jurisdictional arbitrage? You're going to have to explain that to me like I'm 5. What does that actually look like in practice?
Fair enough. Imagine you are playing a board game, but you realize you can move your player piece to an entirely different board where the rules say you don't have to pay rent, but you still get to collect money from the first board.
Oh, wow. That sounds incredibly unfair.
It is. It's when the ultra-wealthy shop around the globe for the country with the weakest laws and lowest taxes, playing governments against each other to hide their assets. That is macro-level evasion of social responsibility.
Right, which is objectively harmful because it drains resources from the exact society they benefit from.
Yes, absolutely. But for everyday people, for you listening to this right now, quiet saving is not about exploiting the tax code or hiding millions in the Cayman Islands.
So what is it about for the average person?
It's about protecting yourself from what economists call the social tax.
The social tax? What does that mean?
The social tax is the pressure, the expectations, and the inevitable comparisons that arise the moment people in your circle know you have money.
Ah.
It's the dinner bill you're suddenly expected to pick up. It's the pitch for your cousin's supposedly guaranteed startup. It's the resentment from a sibling who earns less than you do.
Ah, okay. So it's not about hiding money from the government to avoid legal taxes. It's about hiding your financial peace from societal pressure to avoid emotional and relational taxes.
Exactly. If we connect this to the bigger picture, protecting your financial habits from social comparison isn't malicious, it's a boundary necessary for survival.
That is a great way to frame it.
Yeah, because if your goal is financial independence, broadcasting every financial win invites scrutiny and envy that can completely derail your progress.
That makes total sense. But where does that leave the loud budgeting trend we saw recently? Because talking openly about money, like breaking the taboo, has actually helped a lot of people get out of debt. Are we saying they were doing it wrong?
Not at all. The sources are clear that quiet saving isn't replacing loud budgeting. They just serve entirely different phases of your financial life cycle.
Okay, how so?
Loud budgeting is fantastic for accountability when you're building a financial habit. If you are drowning in credit card debt, talking about it publicly destigmatizes the struggle.
Right, it takes away the shame.
Exactly. It removes the shame and helps you build a support system to actually change your behavior.
Got it. So loud budgeting is like the scaffolding you use while you are constructing the building, but quiet saving is for when the building is finished and you need to protect it from the elements.
Yes, that's a perfect analogy. But there is one very crucial warning from the researchers here. Quiet saving can easily devolve into quiet suffering if privacy turns into isolation.
Where is the line between those two? Because they sound pretty close.
The quiet part of this trend is supposed to apply to your spending choices, your online presence, and your ego. It does not mean cutting yourself off from real conversations with a partner or a trusted confidant.
Especially if you're struggling. Right.
Exactly. If you are financially stressed, refusing to spend any money at all, skipping every single social gathering, and hiding your anxiety from your spouse,
Yeah.
that isn't stealth wealth. That is just financial anxiety wearing a mask.
That is a great gut check for you listening. Are you keeping your finances private because you no longer need external validation? Or are you keeping them private because you are ashamed or afraid?
Right, intention matters.
Yeah, if it's the first one, you are mastering the ego gap. If it's the second, you might need to reach out and talk to someone.
Precisely.
Okay, I want to pivot back to this idea of the social tax because it sounds like a really interesting theory, but I know we have data on this. Is the social tax just a feeling, or is there actual math proving that social pressure drags down your wealth?
Oh, there is absolute math behind it. And here's where we look at a fascinating World Bank study included in our sources.
Okay, let's hear it.
They looked at female factory workers in Côte d'Ivoire, and it provides incredible empirical evidence for the mechanical power of financial privacy.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Walk me through the mechanics of the study. What were these women dealing with?
So, these women were cashew processing workers, earning a modest wage. The researchers found they faced a staggering social tax rate from their own family and friends.
How staggering are we talking?
Between 9 and 23% of their total income was being requested by people in their social network.
Up to 23%.
Yeah.
That is a massive chunk of your labor just like walking out the door before you can even build a safety net.
It really is. And the psychological burden was even heavier than the financial one. 77% of these women believed that if they worked harder and earned more money, they would simply be subjected to even more requests for cash.
Wow, so there was zero incentive to be more productive.
Exactly.
Because what's the point of working an extra shift if your uncle is just going to ask for the exact amount you earned?
Right. So the researchers ran an experiment. They offered the workers a special direct deposit savings account where their earnings would be stored. But they split them into two groups. They offered some women a public account, meaning their social network would know they had it and could see the balance. And they offered other women a strictly private account.
So essentially a secret vault.
Yes.
I have to imagine the private account was more popular.
Massively. 60% of the women offered the private account took it, compared to only 14% for the public one.
Wow, that's a huge difference.
But what happened next is the real breakthrough. Having access to a private account actually changed their physical behavior at work. The women with private accounts increased their attendance by 9.7%.
Really? Just from having the account?
Yeah, and they increased their overall earnings by 11.4%.
That is wild. Just having the option of privacy made them want to work harder.
Yes.
It makes me think of putting your smartphone on Do Not Disturb so you can finally get some deep work done.
Oh, I like that.
By putting their earnings in a private account, they were putting their labor on Do Not Disturb. They blocked out the relentless societal demands, and it directly boosted their motivation.
That's the perfect analogy because it highlights the mechanism of distraction. They realized they could finally retain the gains of their own productivity.
Right.
And what's really crucial here is that they didn't stop helping their families. The private accounts simply allowed them to build a personal buffer without decreasing the baseline transfers they were already making.
Oh, that's beautiful. So it was a net positive for everyone.
Exactly. Driven entirely by the power of financial secrecy.
Okay, so we've established why privacy is necessary to protect your income from the social tax. But how do we actually grow it? Like, if we are going to be quiet savers, what are the mechanics of stealth wealth?
For that, we look at the power of compounding and automation, utilizing frameworks from the financial platform spnd.io. They share a very grounded, math-driven scenario that illustrates how you bypass human error.
Break down the numbers for us. How does the math work?
Let's imagine a 30-year-old who takes home $5,500 USD a month.
Okay, 5,500.
They decide to automate 20% of their income, that's $1,100, into diversified investments, earning a conservative 7% annual return.
Pretty standard advice so far.
Right. But the key is they set this up once. They don't rely on daily willpower. It just happens in the background.
But why is the automation part so critical? Why not just, try really hard to save that money manually every month?
Because of decision fatigue and loss aversion.
Hmm.
Willpower is a finite resource. If that $1,100 sits in your checking account and you have to manually move it to an investment account, your brain perceives that as a loss.
Oh, interesting. So it physically feels bad to move it?
You feel the pain of parting with the money. You'll start bargaining with yourself. Like,
Hmm.
maybe I'll just transfer 500 this month and buy those shoes I wanted.
I have absolutely done that.
We all have. But automation bypasses the amygdala. If the money leaves your account the day you get paid, you never see it,
Mm.
so you never feel the loss.
Just a quiet, invisible machine humming along, saving you from yourself.
Exactly. And because it's automated, they don't sabotage it. By the time this person reaches age 65, that simple, unsexy background automation has grown to roughly 1.9 million USD.
Almost $2 million
Yeah.
from one afternoon of setting up an automatic transfer.
Yes. The time cost is virtually zero after the initial setup. The outcome is a seven-figure portfolio that a different version of that same person, the version who relied on willpower and kept forgetting to transfer the money, would never have achieved.
It's the ultimate proof of compounding. And, whenever we talk about the mechanics of compounding, we have to bring up Warren Buffett.
Oh, of course.
The man is the absolute poster child for stealth wealth. Out of his $84.5 billion net worth, at least at the time Morgan Housel wrote his book, $81.5 billion of it came after his 65th birthday.
Which is a statistic that the human brain can barely comprehend.
It sounds impossible, but he achieved it because he didn't panic. He quietly survived 14 recessions. He didn't get carried away with debt. He didn't burn himself out trying to look flashy. He just let the math do the heavy lifting over a very, very long period of time.
He prioritized being financially unbreakable over chasing big, risky, short-term returns just to impress people.
So what does this all mean for you? How do you actually put the psychology of Morgan Housel, the habits of the millionaire next door, and the math of spnd.io to work in your own life today?
This is where we transition into the actionable steps. Based on all our sources, we've distilled this into a four-step Wealthnetic action plan, which we call the automation stack.
Let's do it. Step 1, automate before you see it. This is the income splitting we just talked about.
Right. The very first move is to open your banking app today and set up an automatic transfer for the exact day your paycheck lands. Do this before you pay rent, before you buy groceries.
Does the amount matter?
Honestly, the amount matters far less than the habit of automation itself. Even a $50 automatic transfer that you never have to think about is mathematically superior to a $500 manual transfer that you eventually talk yourself out of making.
Let the software be your discipline. I love that. Step 2, pick boring, diversified investments and use tax-advantaged accounts.
The default vehicle here is a low-cost, broadly diversified fund, like an index fund within a 401k or an IRA if you're in the US, or a TFSA in Canada.
Wait, just to be crystal clear for the listener, what is the actual mechanism of a tax-advantaged account? Like, how does it act as a stealth wealth shield?
Think of it as a legal, government-approved vault. The government is essentially saying, if you lock this money up for your future retirement, we won't tax the growth year over year.
Okay, so it protects your gains.
Normally, if you make money on an investment, you pay taxes on those gains, which drags down your compounding. A tax-advantaged account removes that tax drag, allowing your money to snowball significantly faster. You set up auto purchases for these funds inside the vault, and then, and this is crucial, you stop checking them.
Stop checking the app. Why is it so important to look away?
Because when the market drops, your amygdala, the fear center of your brain, fires off like you're being chased by a predator. Volatility literally feels like a physical threat.
Yeah, opening that app in a down market is terrifying.
But as Morgan Housel points out, volatility is not a fine you are paying for doing something wrong. It is simply the fee you pay for long-term growth. Accept the fee and look away so you don't panic sell.
Step 3 in the action plan, let raises disappear. The sources call this the single highest leverage move in the entire framework.
Because this is exactly where we intercept lifestyle inflation. The next time your income goes up, whether it's a promotion, a new job, or a bonus, increase your automatic savings percentage before your lifestyle has a chance to inflate.
So intercept the money before you get used to it.
Exactly. If you get a $500 a month raise, immediately automate $250 of it into your investments. You still get to enjoy a slightly better lifestyle, but your self-wealth is accelerating quietly in the background without you feeling any pinch.
You are paying your future self first before your current self can spend it. And finally, step 4, buy for value and track privately.
This means redefining how you view your purchases. Keep driving that reliable car after it is paid off. Don't finance discretionary purchases like luxury vacations.
Right.
And if you are tracking your financial milestones, reframe any urge to publicly brag about them into a private tracker just for you.
So no screenshotting your portfolio for social media.
No screenshots. The goal isn't to hide money from your partner. It is to eliminate the noise, the envy, and the social tax from habits that are already working.
It all comes back to that central theme we started with. The goal isn't to look poor, and it is certainly not to look rich. The goal is to actually be wealthy. True wealth is buying yourself freedom, flexibility, and peace of mind. And you achieve that by keeping your ego in check, keeping your moves private, and letting automation do the heavy lifting in the background.
Right. When you remove the audience from your financial life, you realize that the only person you actually need to impress is yourself.
If you found value in this deep dive into the Wealthnetic mindset today, take a moment to apply just one of these automation steps to your own life. Make sure to subscribe to the Wealthnetic channel and send this to that one friend who is on this exact same wealth building journey alongside you so you can be private accountability partners. And drop a comment to let us know, what topic do you need us to deep dive into next?
And as we wrap up, I want to leave you with one final question to mull over. It's a thought experiment to test where your ego ends and your true desires begin. If you lived in a world where no one could ever see your bank account, your car, or your house, how would your spending change today?